They told me that Holy Week had been canceled due to family problems. "We'll make it up to you next year," my father wrote. Then I saw their photos online. The best Holy Week ever, they posted. When they called me the next day, "Hi Reddick, it's Noelia. I'm 30 years old, and I never thought I'd post something like this. Not because I haven't had family drama before, believe me, I have, but because this particular moment made something inside me click. Like the final click of a lock that had been waiting to turn for years." I want to explain this slowly because stories like this don't happen out of nowhere. They accumulate silently over time until one day you look around and realize the ground you were standing on is no longer there. So here's some context. I'm the oldest of 3 siblings. My parents, Isabel and Fernando, had me very young, almost straight out of college. Money was scarce, and time even more so. From a very young age, I was the one who helped when Mom had to stay late at the office. I prepared dinner for Diego and Claudia, my younger siblings. When Dad worked weekends, I did the laundry, cleaned the house, made sure homework got done. Nobody asked me. It was just expected. I'm not trying to paint myself as a martyr. I wasn't a perfect child. I had my struggles, slammed a few doors in adolescence, skipped chores occasionally, but I was always there for my family, always. I didn't go away to college because Mom said she couldn't manage the house without me, so I stayed and commuted every day, working part-time to help with the bills. When Claudia had an algebra meltdown in high school, I was the one who stayed up with her until midnight, reviewing equations. When Diego broke his wrist playing soccer, I was the one who took him to all the doctor's appointments because Mom was swamped at work and Dad couldn't afford to miss another day. I'm not telling this to brag, but because it's important to understand what my place was. I wasn't just a daughter. I was the glue, the third parent, the one they never acknowledged. When I finally moved out at 23, it wasn't dramatic. There was no big fight. It just happened. I had saved enough to rent a tiny one-bedroom apartment about 20 minutes from home. I thought I would continue to be an important part of their lives. I thought I would still go over every weekend, helping with family meals, organizing movie nights, being the go-to person for advice or support. But the change was almost immediate. The messages got shorter, the calls less frequent. Suddenly, I wasn't included in the little things anymore. Claudia's art exhibition, the weekend barbecue with Diego's friends, family game night. It was as if, by no longer being under their roof, I had become less real to them. An afterthought. But Holy Week, that was sacred. My grandmother, my mother's mother, used to organize a beautiful meal every year. Nothing fancy, just home-cooked food, mismatched plates, and laughter that filled every room. When she passed away, the tradition moved to my parents' house, and for a while, it was the only thing that remained constant. However distant everything else became, they always invited me. I always arrived early to help cook, stayed late to clean. One year, I brought homemade torrijas, French toast, and they were such a hit that they became my permanent contribution. Holy Week was ours. So you can imagine my surprise when, about 2 weeks before the holidays, I received a message from my dad. Not a call, not a family group chat, just a short message. "Hi honey, just letting you know we won't be doing Holy Week dinner this year. Lots of family stuff going on. We'll make it up to you next year. Love you." I had to read it 3 times for it to sink in. Family stuff? What kind of stuff? No one had mentioned anything to me. If it was something serious, an illness, a conflict, financial problems, I felt like I would know, or at least I should know. I called my mother immediately. She didn't answer. I left a voicemail asking if everything was okay. I even texted her a little later. Just wanted to check in, see how you guys are doing. Saw Dad's message. Hope everything's okay. Let me know if you need anything. Nothing. I waited a day and called Diego. He answered, but he sounded distracted, like he didn't really want to talk. Yeah, he mumbled when I asked about Holy Week. Things have been tense, I guess. Mom and Dad just weren't feeling up to it. Tense? How? I pressed. He hesitated. Family stuff, you know. That was the problem. I didn't know. But I didn't want to pressure him. Diego has never been a great communicator, and I thought maybe there really was something serious. Maybe someone was upset or overwhelmed. I tried to give them the benefit of the doubt. Claudia didn't reply to my message. It didn't even show up as read. I told myself not to take it personally. I made plans with two of my close friends, Laura and Sonia, for a small Holy Week get-together at my apartment. We kept it simple: baked cake, mashed sweet potato, and store-bought rosquillas, donuts. We watched a couple of old comedies, lit some candles, and played cards. Afterward, I even laughed a little. But throughout the night, I felt like something was off, like I was missing something, like I didn't understand what was happening. The next morning, I woke up early and instinctively checked my phone, and there it was, a post by my cousin Tomas. A picture of a beautiful, carefully decorated table, laden with dishes I recognized: Mom's spinach empanada, Claudia's stew, the plates with the design my grandmother used. And there, in the center of it all, smiling, were my parents. Mom in her favorite rust-colored sweater, Dad relaxed, Diego grinning next to Claudia, who was holding a plate I recognized immediately: my torrijas recipe. The caption read, "Grateful for the best Holy Week. Family is everything." I stared at that photo for a long time, so long that the phone screen went dark twice before I realized I hadn't moved. My thumb hovered over the image, as if I needed to press something that would explain what I was seeing. At first, it didn't feel real. In fact, for a moment, I managed to convince myself that maybe it was from last year and Tomas had simply posted it late. People do that, right? But then I saw the centerpiece, a handmade decoration with tiny pumpkins made of cinnamon sticks and felt leaves. Claudia had talked about that just a few days ago. She even uploaded a photo to her story. It was unmistakable, and it was right in the center of the table in Tomas's photo. So, no, it wasn't an old post. It wasn't a memory. It was this Holy Week, the one for which I had been told there would be no celebration. I kept looking. Tomas had uploaded more photos to his story. One of everyone gathered in the kitchen, Mom and Claudia laughing at the counter, Dad carving roast lamb, Diego tossing a ball in the garden with Tomas and another cousin. A group photo in front of the fireplace where there used to be a piece of paper with my name and the message, "Grateful for Noelia." This time, there was neither the paper nor me. I felt something cold settle in my chest. It wasn't anger, not yet. It was a kind of silent disbelief, as if I'd walked into a room and everyone had forgotten I existed. I didn't say anything at first. I just sat there with my uneaten breakfast getting cold in front of me, staring at the screen as if it would suddenly change. I opened the photo again, zoomed in, counted the chairs. It wasn't impromptu. It had been carefully planned, intentionally. The table was set for 12. There were name cards, matching napkins. Claudia had even made one of those little menu signs she loves to put together for parties. They had prepared everything. They hadn't just excluded me, they had erased me. My friends noticed something was wrong. I told them I wasn't feeling well, blamed it on the dessert from the night before, but they knew it was something else. I could feel their worried looks. I tried to smile, make jokes, pretend that everything wasn't drilling a hole through me. But the more I thought about it, the more the little pieces fit together. The discomfort in Diego's voice, Claudia's silence, Dad's short, vague message. It wasn't sudden. It wasn't a spontaneous meal. It was planned, without me. And worst of all, I didn't know why. I spent the rest of the day checking my phone, waiting for someone to text me. Maybe Mom would call to apologize, say it was all a misunderstanding. Maybe Claudia would send an awkward message saying it all happened so fast. Anything. But nothing came. Not even a like on the photo I posted the night before of our little dinner among friends. Just silence. That night, I lay in bed, wide awake, mentally replaying every family moment from the last year. I kept wondering if I had done something, said something, forgotten something. Could it be because I hadn't lent them money last spring when Dad hinted that he needed help with the car payment? Or maybe because I couldn't dog sit in the summer when they went to the lake. I told them I had a work deadline, and Mom sounded annoyed but didn't mention it again, at least not to me. I tried not to spiral. I kept telling myself there had to be an explanation. There had to be. But then, the next morning, the phone rang. It was my father. I stared at his name on the screen, my thumb hovering over the green button. I let it ring 3 times. Part of me wanted to send it straight to voicemail, but curiosity won. Maybe he would finally give me answers. "Hi, honey," he said cheerfully, as if nothing had happened. "Hope you had a good Holy Week." And that's when I understood. He wasn't calling to explain. He was calling to pretend everything was normal. I stayed silent, the phone pressed to my ear. His voice was light, almost animated, as if they hadn't left me out of something sacred, as if I hadn't spent the last 24 hours looking at photos of a meal I wasn't invited to. "Yes," I finally said, my voice low and steady. "I had a good Holy Week." He murmured a good, as if we were checking things off a list. "We were thinking we could get together next week," he added. "Go out to dinner, make up for the change of plans." Change of plans. I felt a pressure in my chest, but didn't let it out. I learned a long time ago not to let my parents see how much their actions hurt me. That only led to condescending comments like, "Are you being overly sensitive?" Or, "Do you always take everything so personally?" So I took a deep breath and asked, in the most natural voice possible, "Everything okay at home? You mentioned family problems." There was a pause, a barely perceptible second, but I noticed it. "Oh, Dad said with a chuckle, a bit of tension with your Aunt Beatrice and the kids. We didn't want to deal with drama, so we decided to keep it simple, just the immediate family." The immediate family. The words hung in the air like smoke. "The immediate family," I repeated softly. "Exactly," he said, not hesitating for a second. "We thought it was best." It was all very last minute. I could hear voices in the background, laughter, someone opening a cupboard, Mom's voice saying something about renovations. It was the sound of a warm, full, satisfied home, and I wasn't a part of it. I nodded slowly, even though he couldn't see me. "Okay, I'll talk to your mother to see what day works for you," he continued, as if this were just a call to coordinate schedules. "We'll find a time. Don't disappear." Okay, I said and hung up before I could add anything else. And I just sat there. This wasn't a misunderstanding. It had nothing to do with my aunt. It was about me. They had left me out, deliberately. And now they wanted to smooth it over with dinner at some random chain restaurant, as if that would fix it. The truth is, my parents had always been a bit transactional. If I did something for them, helped them with their taxes, looked after the dog, brought them groceries, they were warm, generous, even. But if I said no, if I set a boundary, or if I prioritized something of my own, that warmth disappeared, and I became the distant daughter, the cold one, the ungrateful one. And I had tolerated it for years. But this was different. It wasn't just a blunder. It was deliberate, calculated. They didn't just exclude me, they replaced me. And not a single person thought I deserved an explanation. So I started thinking, not about yelling or confronting or begging for answers. I was done chasing clarity from those who benefited from my confusion. I thought about something else. My parents, especially my mother, had spent years carefully constructing an image of our family, something polished, impeccable. She loved to host, had this little tradition of uploading photo albums of parties to Facebook with exaggeratedly cheerful captions like, "Family is everything," or "blessed beyond words." She treated every gathering like a photo shoot, and every photo like proof that we were exactly as perfect as she wanted others to believe. But there was something she didn't see, a blind spot, me. She never wondered what I knew, what I had seen, what I had done for them behind the cameras. The years of receipts I had accumulated, not actual receipts, but memories, stories, screenshots, things they would rather forget. And maybe, just maybe, it was time they remembered. Not by shouting, not with drama, but by using their own carefully constructed image against them. I opened my laptop. I had an idea, one that had been quietly simmering in the back of my mind for years, waiting for a reason to become real. Now I had it. I went to my old emails, opened a folder I hadn't touched in a long time. It was something I had started years ago when I was still in college and thought maybe I would pursue writing. They were just personal essays, reflections, stories about growing up in my family, about being the third parent, about feeling used and unappreciated. I had never shared them, but I always knew that someday I would. I started rereading them and something strange happened. I stopped feeling small. The sadness, the sting of being forgotten, began to fade, and in its place, something clearer emerged. They hadn't just left me out of Holy Week. They had been dismissing me, minimizing me, undervaluing me for years. They thought they could erase me quietly and no one would notice. They were wrong, because I was going to make sure they were seen for who they really were. Not with a fight, but with the truth. In the following days, I didn't respond to any of my mother's messages. Finally, she texted me on a Sunday night. Nothing direct, of course, just something light. Thinking about making Christmas cookie tins this year. Any flavors you're craving? It was the same old Isabel, cheerful, oblivious, perfectly polished on the outside, without a single mention of Holy Week, without any apology. She was testing the waters, trying to see if I would go back to playing my usual role, the reliable daughter, the one who always came back no matter how many times they pushed her away. But I didn't want to play anymore. Instead of replying, I continued working on something that had been quietly growing inside me, my own festive project. The essays I had written years ago gave me a foundation, but now I wanted to go further, deeper, more specific. I began documenting everything I remembered, the patterns, the manipulations, the way my parents used me when it suited them and disappeared when it didn't, how they favored some, how they rewrote history to look good. Each entry came easier than the last. The year I spent all night helping prepare Holy Week dinner after Mom hurt her back, only to be cropped out of all the photos. The time they forgot my college graduation gift and then blamed me for not reminding them. And all the holidays I spent covering for Diego when he forgot assignments, didn't pay rent, failed at everything because he's going through a rough patch and you've always been the strong one. I wrote it all down, at first just for me. But now I had a purpose. Claudia had started a very aesthetic, very curated blog, mainly about home decor, baking, seasonal things. She had promoted it quite a bit in the family group chat and had received surprisingly good attention online. She even had affiliate links and sponsored content from time to time. And just last week, she texted me asking for help reviewing some drafts. She told me I was good with words and that she trusted my judgment. I didn't reply then, but now I had a different idea. You see, she had given me access to the blog's internal panel to leave comments directly, and she never changed the password. It wasn't illegal. I didn't break in. She had given me access, and I didn't touch her sponsored posts or brand collaborations. I didn't want to ruin her business. But I did upload one of my essays to a hidden page on the site. I titled it When Family First Means Everyone But You, and shared a story. Not with anger, not with resentment, just with honesty. I didn't use names. I didn't point fingers. But anyone who knew me and knew them would recognize the details. I described a holiday where a daughter is told that plans are canceled due to family problems, only to later discover that she was the problem, that the family had indeed gathered, had smiled for photos, and had pretended she didn't exist. I described what it feels like to sit with that kind of silence, to realize that your presence was never essential, only optional. I made sure the tone was calm, almost reflective. It wasn't an attack, it was a mirror, something anyone could read and feel. I didn't publish it yet. I wasn't finished. Over the next week, I continued compiling stories, small moments that had worn me down over the years. Not just from my parents, from how Diego always had excuses, how Claudia played innocent while sowing discord, how I was always asked for understanding without anyone having it for me. I rewrote those memories not to wallow in them, but to reclaim them. My plan was to publish them little by little on Claudia's blog. She could delete them, of course, but not before someone very important read them, my parents. Because my mother read every word Claudia posted, commented with emojis and phrases like, "proud of my girl," shared them on Facebook to show off to her church friends. I wanted her to read my words, for once not for approval but to see me. And I knew she wouldn't be able to ignore them. But I didn't stop there. There was something else, something I had been working on for months, since before that Holy Week, something that would hurt more when it came to light. But that would have to wait. Because 2 days later, Claudia called me. She didn't sound sweet anymore. She sounded scared. "Did you upload something to my blog?" she asked, her voice trembling. "Why do you ask?" I replied, keeping my cool. "Don't play games, Noelia. People are messaging me. I've lost subscribers. Mom is crying. Someone sent them the link. They want to know if it's about us." I let a second pass. "You mean about being excluded from Holy Week? About being told it was family problems, but the problem was me?" Silence. "I didn't know you weren't invited," she blurted defensively. "I thought you had changed your mind." "No, you didn't," I said quietly. "You saw that my name disappeared from the plans and didn't ask because you didn't care. Like always. That's not fair. But it's true." She stayed on the line, breathing raggedly. "You had no right to publish that. You humiliated Mom. She says she can't go to church. Dad is furious. He thinks you've turned everyone against us." "They only exposed themselves," I replied. "I only told the truth." She was silent, but didn't hang up. She wanted to know what would come next. She always preferred to anticipate the consequences. "I haven't published the rest," I added. "But I could. Do you want to destroy this family?" "I want to stop pretending this family hasn't been destroying me for years." Another pause. Then her voice dropped. "What do you want?" For the first time, they were asking. "I want you all to acknowledge it. That I know what happened. That you left me out on purpose. And that no one had the guts to say it. I want a real apology. Not a fake message, not a dinner, not a box of cookies." "And do you think they'll do it?" "No. But now they know what happens if they don't." I didn't hear from her again that night. But the next morning, my father called. He didn't sound relaxed anymore. "Your mother is very upset," he said. "I imagine," I said. "We didn't want to hurt you. We thought it would be easier this way. We didn't think you'd care." I waited for an apology, some sign that they understood. It didn't come. "Then don't be surprised by what I did." He sighed. "We want to talk in person, clear the air." And there I understood. They weren't calling out of remorse. They were calling because their perfect image had been shattered, and now they were afraid someone would look closely. I agreed, but on my terms. In a neutral coffee shop, no surprises. We sat down a few days later. I didn't yell. I didn't cry. I let them talk. My mother fiddled with her sleeve. "We didn't want to exclude you. We just thought with all the tension, you wouldn't want to come. You've always been more sensitive." "But you didn't ask me," I said, looking her in the eye. She didn't deny it. "I don't want to rewrite history," I continued, "or be the scapegoat for keeping the peace. If I'm part of this family, you treat me as such. If not, let's stop pretending." My father looked away, his jaw tense. For the first time in years, they didn't argue. They didn't apologize. But they listened. They saw a version of me they had ignored for years. Not the obedient one. Not the one who fixes everything. Just someone who had had enough. That day, we agreed on some things. Boundaries. Clarity. No more pretending everything is fine while it rots from the inside. I didn't go for Christmas. I didn't want another fake apology, or gift bag, or forced photo. I spent it with those who had been there without being asked, with friends who know what it means to be chosen family.